Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest, and I had to ask, but her name is Crystal Adair-Benning, and I'm so happy that you said yes to our interview. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Wow, amazing. And I would love to introduce you to the audience. Of course, you are the CEO and founder of Word Magic, a multiple New York Times best-selling ghostwriter and copywriter. Through your quantum copy revolution, you blend writing with human connection and sales psychology to spotlight rebels, misfits, and visionaries. You are a digital nomad, an intuitive creative. You travel the world leading book writing retreats and creations. How do you creations? I know
hmm
now. Help others unleash the power of their stories. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Crystal.
Thank you. I mean, who wrote that bio? It must have been a writer.
Oh, that's so great. My first question is what inspired you to create the quantum copy revolution, and how does it change the way people connect through writing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the quantum copy revolution just actually took a name change. So it's now the quantum copy method. But really, what happened was I am a certified coach in NLP, hypnotherapy, and a bunch of other things as well. Just as part of my education for writing, I took these classes so that I would understand human behavior better and emotions and all of that good stuff. And through that, I recognized that there were components that we learned from neurolinguistic programming that relate into directly how we write, how we perceive, and how we communicate. So the quantum copy method basically breaks down communication into personality types, belief systems, and sales tools and sales psychology to give you a better picture of why the words we use actually matter the most.
Oh, that is an amazing explanation. Thank you so much. I understand better now. It has to do with our personalities as well, how we write, how we communicate, and to transport our messages to other people, right?
Absolutely. So it's as simple as this. When we meet somebody, oftentimes if we say you meet somebody and you're like, I don't totally like them, I there's something about them that doesn't connect with me. Oftentimes what's happening is they are actually just in a different level than you. So, people who are above our level, we see them as we might perceive them as higher, or they have more status, or there's something about them that we're intrigued by that we want to learn from. Somebody that's below us in a belief system, oftentimes we can't relate because we've passed that. Like, we don't understand their belief system because they believe something different than us. And we see this played out. I mean, I'm in Canada, but we see this played out in American politics right now really heavily, that you've just got two very different belief systems happening, and each side can't see the other side for various reasons. And so the quantum copy method breaks that down into human dynamics and just basically says, it's not so much that we can't get along, it's that we're not speaking the same language. We're not speaking the language of connection. We're speaking the language of separation right now. And so if we met each other at our level, the level that they exist at, we could actually create and foster better communication. And I think, I'm going to put it out there, I think we could actually foster a better political system across the world if we communicated better.
Oh, absolutely. And I understand for the first time in my life, I understand what you mean, because in my past, I would have said, yeah, they are at a different level, whether
Mhm.
it's above or below, and we cannot communicate. So I stopped at that point and I turn away.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of us do. I mean, that's human nature, right? Like, oh, they don't get me, I don't get them, like, just forget it. And what I've learned is that, as I've learned this, as I've developed this, as I've taught this, you can communicate with anybody. You just have to be able to tap into what they believe to be true and speak their language. And you can up level people through language simply by knowing how to speak to them. But you have to first meet them where they're at before you can move anybody up or down. Nobody is going to shift if they don't understand you first.
Oh, yes, this is so true. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Of course, I
Mhm.
have another question. How do you approach blending sales psychology with storytelling, especially for rebels and visionaries?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the quantum copy method is part of that. So the quantum copy method is all about meeting people where they're at and up leveling them and challenging them and bringing them through things. But I think the way that we do that is when we look at sales psychology, there's like things that we do, like FOMO is part of sales psychology, right? The fear of missing out. That's a tool to move people. But what happens is if we look at sales psychology, if we look at FOMO, for example, as just one little micro piece of sales psychology, if I try and speak to you about FOMO in terms of like, you're not going to get enough time with your family, or you're going to lose out on those deep relationships, that matters to only a certain population that has a very strong belief system in family. If you're somebody who doesn't have that belief system, if you're an entrepreneur, for example, who is more about success and achievement, me telling you that you're going to miss out on time with your family, you're like, well, duh, I'm out here trying to make money and I'm hustling and I'm busy. You're not so worried about your family time necessarily in that moment. You're worried about how not making enough money so you can support your family would be the concern. So I need to know from a sales perspective, am I talking to you about not making enough money to support your family, or am I talking to you about missing out on time, the developmental years of your children or your spouse? And that connection, that subtle connection, is all about where we meet. So when I look at things, I look at, what our belief systems are, but also about the type of personality that you are from a sales perspective. And we look at all of the tools that we have in our marketer's toolkit for what works to sell, what doesn't work to sell. And it's all customized to the person. If you meet somebody who's a high achieving CEO, total boss, and they make all the decisions, and you try and sell them on this long-winded why they need it, they don't want to know. They want to know, what's my return on investment? What's in it for me? How fast is it going to work? And if you can give them that, you can literally change a sales conversation from an hour-long conversation into a 5-minute conversation and still make the sale. The trick is knowing who you're speaking to, what level they're on, and what they need to hear to say yes to you.
Oh, yes, that's so true. Thank you so much. I learned that successful people are quick decision maker as well, and that matches what you said. And I love how you simplified it that I can understand, about time and money. So time
Yeah,
is whether what is important for the person you are talking to, time
totally.
and or money, or the family and the business side. And you are
Yeah,
so right, because there are business people, they don't care about their families, so to say. I
yeah.
was them, by the way. And then you can turn this around. Other people are not working, for example, and family is everything to them.
Absolutely. You have to know who the person is, and there's clues that we leave. So when you're speaking to somebody, pay attention to the things that, like, if you ask them what really gets them excited, or what's the coolest thing happening in their life right now, or you just ask them what's going on. If their big topic of conversation is about family, oh, my parents are sick, or my kid's tired, or my kid's going back to school, or whatever, they're probably somebody who's incredibly family oriented and family driven. That's why it's top of their mind. Likewise, if you meet somebody and you ask them what's going on in their life and they start talking about their business, you're not going to focus in on their family. You're going to focus in on their business and how you can make it better. We give clues about our personalities just in the words that we use to speak. So the first step to being a better writer is to become a better listener.
Wow, this is the best advice I ever heard. I have to re-listen to it again. Of course, there were so many insights and nuggets. Thank you so much. And my next question would be, what if someone doesn't want to talk to you at all? So how do you start a conversation?
I mean, that's always tough, but you have to meet them where they're at, right? So I would be looking for, again, clues as to why they might not want to speak to you, right? Some people, I'm a business boss babe. So when you come to me, if you try and sell me in 30 seconds, I'm not interested because you took no time to get to know me. But if you took time to find out something about me, to compliment me, or to show me that you took the effort to get to know me before you reached out, I'm much more willing to give you my time and energy. So I think really at the end of the day, we have to remember that all of us are human. Flattery tends to work, but we want to know that if you're going to sell me something, that you took the time to get to know me. Now, if you're a used car salesman on a sales lot and you're like, I don't have time to Google this person and figure this out, I totally get it. But you can take some cues from what car did they drive onto the lot? Are they with their family when they showed up? What clothing are they wearing? Are they carrying an expensive handbag? You can make some inferences about people that are going to give you some insight into who they are and what they do simply by how they show up, right? So it's the words we speak, but it's also the actions behind it. And so I think the best way to do it is, again, listen, look with your eyes, and then cautiously make some inferences. I'm not saying that if you see a woman who's heavy set, you're like, oh, what are you due for your pregnancy? That's bad form. Don't play that game. But you can start a conversation with something as simple as, oh, I really like your earrings. People all the time compliment my glasses. It's a great opener because you compliment something, and I'm not a horrible human. So I'm immediately going to say, oh, thank you. And if I want to continue the conversation, I will. So your conversation starter doesn't always have to be about going for the sale. It should actually start with the person and then move into the sale once you've got rapport built. And that's, again, what Quantum Copy Method is trying to teach us is how do we build deeper rapport with people? How do we understand them before we try and sell ourselves? Because if you go into sales thinking it's all about you and your bottom line, you won't sell anything. If you go in wanting to serve and help by paying attention to who the person is and matching the offer to the person, you'll sell every time.
Wow, that's amazing. And I came across a quote or a sentence. Someone said, if you want someone to be interested in you, you have to be interested in them first.
Mm-hmm.
This is described, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it makes sense, right? We also need to be interesting people. So, what you deem interesting is subject to discussion, but we need to be interesting humans. We all have something about us that's really fascinating, that's really interesting. And it's often not what's coming out of our mouths. It's the thing we don't say.
Wow, best advice. Thank you so much. I have another question for you.
Of
Can you share
course.
a memorable moment of success story from one of your book writing retreats or creations?
Oh my goodness. I mean, all of them are success stories to me, but my favorite was last November, I hosted a retreat in Queenstown, New Zealand. And for just because of, the times we're in, a couple people got sick. So there was a couple last minute cancellations. I ended up with only 2 people at my retreat, which is really surprising. This never happened. So I was super excited. And because it was only 2 women, we got to go deeper into sales psychology, personality, belief systems. And the 2 women came in with their ideas of what they wanted to write about. But one of them specifically, when she opened her mouth and started telling us her story in between sessions, like inside the workshops, when she started to share her story, I recognized that the book that she wanted to write, which was a business book, she needed to write a memoir first. She needed to tell her personal story. And I knew that because, again, eyes, ears, I'm listening to the story she's telling me and what gets her lit up, which was all of her story, from her life, the stuff that she learned and how she learned it. I'm paying attention with my eyes, seeing that she's getting emotional about it, that she's really passionate about it, that she's really engaged when she's talking about it. And when she talked about her business book, not so much. She closed down. She got very matter of fact about it. There was no passion, there was no light. And so what I said to her in conversation was, I think you need to write this book first, because I think that there's an opening for you in how you write the marketing book, but it has to come from this first book. So again, eyes and ears, paying attention to my person and recognizing that what they're saying isn't actually what needed to happen. And so she completely changed her book. She's now wrote the most incredible book about she was a woman in apartheid South Africa, a white woman who married a Black man, faced a lot of racism, a lot of political upheaval. She was there when Nelson Mandela was sent to prison, there when he was let out. And those stories needed to be told for her to literally heal and help. And now she's writing her business book, and it's going to be so much more powerful. So for me, that's a win in showing exactly how Quantum Copy Method works in real life. You may want to do one thing, but what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing is telling me something different. And acknowledging that for somebody, holding up a mirror for them and helping them see it for themselves that's the win.
Wow, I absolutely see this. Thank you so much. And first of all, I love that you showed up to the retreat. I say, even though there were only two people, of
I
course, you
loved it.
this before, but there are so I came in contact with people, they were not willing to show up for a few people, or even, when, and then people cancel the meetings or the events. And so
No.
congratulations, I love that you did it.
Everything happens for a reason. And whether there's two people in my room, one person showed up, or 100, I'm going to serve at the best level that I can for all of those people in the best way possible, because they have shown a commitment to the work that I do, and I'm going to offer them everything I have back. There's no accidents. It was two people and her book changed. If there had been six, would it have happened? I don't know. It didn't happen that way. And I believe there's no accidents. It was meant to happen that way. So if you're somebody who runs retreats or events and you get a small audience, serve them like there's 1,000 people in the room. And those two women have filled more retreats for me after coming to my retreat and doing their work than anybody else who's ever attended a retreat. Like, they are, I mean, they're basically my sales team at this point. They go out and talk about me all the time. Whereas I've served rooms of hundreds of people and not had nearly the level of testimonial, referral, etc. So sometimes small rooms are your powerhouse.
Yes, I love that. And also that you said the story that has to be told first of that lady, and
Yeah,
also that maybe she underestimated this, or the power of that
totally.
story. It was too easy, but it was her desire, and you showed her the
Yeah.
mirror, you said. Thank you so much for sharing this story. I have another question for you.
Okay, I love it. What else we got?
As a digital nomad, or no, I don't know how you pronounce this, but how does your travel influence your creativity and approach to writing?
Oh, it's everything for me. So I always joke, like, it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, "You don't make friends with salad," right? It's like doing the same boring thing over and over doesn't inspire you. So salad, if you eat salad every day, maybe you're somebody who's inspired by salad, but I sure as heck am not. When I sit in my house every day at the same desk, looking at the same picture, talking to the same people, I don't have the inspiration. And as a storyteller, especially, being out in the world and having experiences sparks inspiration. When I write social media posts, or when I write short stories, even when I'm writing longer stories for clients, oftentimes my world experience from being out, from traveling, from experiencing that culture, that religion, that space allows me the ability to be more creative with it. If I'm right, I write a lot for people who live in the South Pacific. That's a very popular area of the world that I write in. So I write a lot for New Zealanders, Kiwis, Aussies, Fijians. And when I write for those humans, part of the way, or the ability I have to write and make it feel like I'm viscerally there, is the fact that I actually was there. I went, I saw it, I experienced it for myself. And so I'm able to capture it better. But our stories aren't told sitting at our desks or eating salad. Our stories are actually told by living our lives and experiencing really creative things. My friends and family know me as a person that you make a suggestion, like, do you want to go do this crazy thing? Chances are I'm going to say yes, because I know that there's a story there. Do I want to go to this concert this week that I don't even know the band? Yes. Do I want to hop a flight tomorrow to this country I've never been to? Absolutely yes. Do I want to change, and it starts with even little things. Do I want to go to a different grocery store today and experience a different store or different people in my city? Absolutely. Do I want to go for a walk in a different direction than I normally do? For sure. You never know where the story is going to come from. But the best storytellers live their lives. We're not hobbits. We don't sit at a desk all day. We literally go live our lives. We are off on our grand adventure, and that creates incredible stories.
Wow, that's so true. Thank you for sharing. And also, I would like to ask, what would your advice be for someone who's just starting, who is inspired by your story and says, "Oh yeah, I want to travel as well and writing stories"?
I mean, the first thing is to write, and travel is subjective. So some people travel means I got on an airplane and I went somewhere I've never been. To other people, travel could be I got in my car and I drove 15 minutes to some place I'd never been. Travel is subjective. So if you don't have the funds to hop a flight to, Iceland tomorrow, great. What do you have the ability to do today? And there are times like right now, I happen to be sitting still. I have sat still where I am for 4 months now. Every single day, though, or every second day, because some days I need to actually do work, but every couple of days, I take myself on an adventure to some place I've never been. A new store, a new park, a new river. Like I go meet new people. I might take a new class I've never taken before. I travel inside of my city so that, again, I can continue to collect stories, collect ideas, collect inspiration. This past week, I've never made jewelry. Somebody randomly said to me, do you want to go to this jewelry making class? Absolutely. I got a great social media post out of making jewelry that had I not gone, I never would have had that post. I never would have had that idea or that picture. So become an observer of life, travel whatever that looks like for you. And if that eventually looks like flights in foreign countries, keep doing it and document everything. So for me, I leave notes for myself on my phone of cool stories. It could be a sentence somebody says that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I need to remember that. I jot it down. I might have seen something or experienced something. I take a picture and I write myself a little note as a reminder. I document everything because everything has the potential to be a story and you never know when. The best thing that I do is probably record photos for myself because photos jog my memory. And so sometimes if I'm stuck on a story idea or I don't know, I will scroll the photos on my phone and go back and go, oh my gosh, remember this? I totally forgot this even existed. I didn't remember this picture, but in this picture, I was the saddest I'd ever been. Or I was struggling with the hardest client of my life, or I just finished a New York Times bestseller, or whatever. And then I can tell that story. The photo jogs my memory enough to do it. So if you want to get started, document everything, travel in whatever way you can, and become an observer of life and actively participate in it as well.
I love your answer. Thank you so much for inspiring us. Also to not memorize, to record, to document everything, and then later, and you don't know why or what is it for in that moment. You just
Yeah.
do it, and then later on, because we only can connect the dots backwards, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so many times that's happened to me where I'm like, why am I taking a picture of this particular meal or this frog that I saw on my walk or whatever? Like, it doesn't have to be these big momentous moments. In fact, we are more relatable and stories are more relatable the more non-extraordinary they are. The more ordinary our lives are, the more we can relate to it. We've all gone for a walk and seen a frog, or we've all had to cook dinner when we didn't want to cook dinner. Those are relatable stories that could be a good connector for your audience because they're universal. So you never know why you're doing it, but it comes back to you in the end.
Okay, so it happens for a reason. And my next question, and it is my last question, is about your goals. Do you set goals for yourself or intentions? And what is the next goal you have? You talked about being there 4 months now at your location.
Yeah. So funny thing, I don't actually set a lot of goals or intentions. My only goal and my only intention ever is truly to feel freedom, whatever that looks like for me in the moment. So it could be freedom of choice, it could be money freedom, it could be time freedom. So freedom, every decision I make is driven by freedom and how that decision will impact my freedom. And truly just following whatever makes me happy. And so that changes from day to day. So today, I got up and I was like, it was 5 o'clock in the morning and I was like, I want to go to Pilates today. That would make me really happy to go sweat and feel good about my body. So I went to Pilates. Later on, my husband asked this morning if we could have steak for dinner because steak makes him very happy. Cool. I can follow that happiness. That sounds good to me. But for me, the decisions always come down to, again, kind of the quantum copy method, looking at my beliefs and values. So if my freedom is unconstrued, I can live anywhere. I can do anything. I could be, with someone. I just make decisions based on my belief system rather than on a specific goal. Like, I want to make X money or I want to live in X country. There are things that I would like. I certainly put out in the universe things I would like. I mean, I want to move to New Zealand permanently. That sounds fantastic. I would love to have 5 million in the bank account in a couple of years. That sounds fantastic. But truly, if either of those impacted my freedom or my happiness in a negative way, that could change tomorrow.
Yes. Wow, best answer. Thank you so much. And now it's time for your last thoughts to the audience, please.
I think that, you know, being a ghostwriter, being a copywriter, being somebody that works with word magic, it's like casting a spell every single day. And I think too many of us don't think about the words we use, the words we speak. We don't think about the words we hear and how much it impacts us. And so, a practice that I've put into place in the last little while is when I hear things or people in my life or around me say things that don't resonate with me. Okay. So, for example, the economy is bad, money's tight, those types of sentences. I don't want to take on that energy, and that's not true for me. So I say for you at the end of it. So if you were to say, you know, it's hard to make money, I would say, I totally understand that for you, right? I'm not going to own that energy and that belief, because even hearing it, part of you takes it in and it sits with you and you're like, oh, money is hard. No, I don't want money to be hard. So it's not. So for me, when we cast the energy of words we speak, words we write, be intentional always about what you're saying. We can experience grief and pain and hardship and still speak into it with gratitude, with grace, with love for ourselves, and cast word magic for ourselves that's going to improve our situation, not make it worse. And so, my advice for anybody out there, if you want to change the world and you want to start with word magic, start with kindness and write love letter language to yourself all the time, whether you're speaking it, whether you're reading it, whether you're writing it.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. And please reach out to Crystal. She's amazing. She knows what she's talking about. This was our episode, and I'm so happy that you said yes. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.
And see you in the next episode.